All right. So Zach came back. He's home from college, and let me speak. And he's here to speak to y'all today. So y'all give him your full attention.
Hey guys. So God's really been working in my life. So I thought I'd share my testimony with you guys. So I was born in El Paso, Texas. I was born into a military family. We weren't really a church family because my parents didn't want to put me into a church. So I really had to discover God on my own. But in 2003, we moved out to Fort Rucker. And then in 2009, I moved out here in Skipperville. I was in 6th grade at the time. I probably did like normal 6th and 7th grade stuff. But in 8th grade is when I started hanging out with a bad crowd here. I smoked my first cigarette. I started smoking cigarettes. And I did that for a while. But in 9th grade, it was the first time I ever picked up a joint and my first time ever drinking. So I battled that for a while. And going into my sophomore year, I remember going to practice one day, and I smoked a joint right before I went to practice. I remember that just actually like killing me that day. So I told myself, all right, Zach, this is hurting your football career. You're not going to smoke anymore. But in my mind, I was still going to come back and smoke and drink immediately after the season ended. But I hurt my shoulder about halfway through the season, but I was only out for a week. When I came back, I found myself fighting for my position. And then so every Friday I prayed out to God, but it was kind of like a selfish prayer. I said, God, if you allow me to play good this game, I will follow you. But I never played good, so I kind of just like found it pointless. Until one night, after I went to bed, I had a dream. I woke up in this dream in this field. And in this field, it was beautiful, it was calm, it was just probably the most relaxed I've ever been in my life. And I saw this man there, and I quickly figured out that man was Jesus Christ. And then he started to walk away, so I followed him. And as I'm following Jesus, you could tell that like the grass and stuff is starting to die. It's getting really sad now. I'm getting a little scared. He takes me to this hole in the ground. It's probably about the size of a trampoline, I would say, but it was bottomless. And you can just feel the heat hitting you. It's a black hole. You just feel the heat on you. And that's when Jesus looked at me. He said, Zach, I love you. I want you to follow me. So that's exactly what I did. The next day, I did what only I knew what to do. Is I came to basic, but basic was still in Miss Wolf's room. So, and then they played a song there that if you were ever a member of basic while I was a leader, you know the song. It's The Great I Am. He talks about moving mountains, and it just like in that moment, I thought back about how the creator of the universe came to me that night. He worries about everybody's problems, take on everybody's sin, and he came to me that night and said he wanted me. So at every point after that, I was living for God. After my junior year of football, I knew I loved football, and I knew I wanted to continue playing at the next level. So I started the recruiting process. I put God in front of everything. I let him lead me to where I needed to go. And I ended up having 7 offers at the end of all of it. I actually forgot about this part, but at CU Tupole my junior year, I was able to tell my dream after I told it in here. And then I also spoke at CU Tupole my senior year. Then my senior year of football was probably the best football I ever had. I was looking forward to college. I went up to a school in Kentucky. I absolutely fell in love with the place. I thought it was a perfect fit for me. I told the coach, he told me as I was leaving, he said goodbye. I said, don't worry, coach, I'll be back. But that's where I felt like where I felt in place. But God had different plans. So on the way home, I got a call from the coach at Maryville saying, hey, we're having a recruiting visit. Do you mind coming down? And I said, sure, coach, it's on the way. Why not? And as soon as I stepped on campus there, I felt God tell me, this is where you fit in. This is where I'm leading you. So it kind of took me a while to kind of like wrap that around, for me to wrap around that. Because I was so in love with the school in Kentucky, but I finally said, all right, God, I'll go to Maryville. And then, so I signed sometime in February. Life's going great. I know I'm going to a great school, and I'm going to graduate from a great school. But it all kind of, my relationship with Christ kind of all went downhill when I hurt my back. I've been dealing with that for about 9 months. I was pretty angry. I said, God, why would you tell me that I need to go to Maryville and play football, but then you can turn around and hurt my back for 9 months? I was angry, but I was still, I would say, like, I was still okay with my relationship with Christ. I was still like plugged into a church, but when everything really went downhill for me is when I moved to Maryville. I had never felt so spiritually disconnected from God. And when you're out there by your own and you don't know anybody, you quickly want to make friends. So I made friends. Again, I fell into the wrong crowd. I found myself at parties drinking again. And then I noticed that we had an FCA club that met on Tuesdays at 9 o'clock. So I went, and they were going through the book of James. And I remember, like, just something spoke to me that night. I didn't know what to do. So immediately after, I went out to outside in front of our library, and I called Josh Mayo. And I told him, man, I'm having troubles out here. And he found me a church. I kind of put it off for a few weeks, to be honest with you. About 2 weeks later, he hit me up with a text. He's like, hey, have you been to that church? I said, nah, man, I've been busy. I was just kind of putting it off. Because, I mean, when you're off by yourself, going to a church by yourself, super intimidating. You just don't want to do it. Just the thought of being by yourself in a place you don't know, surrounded by people you don't know, is frightening almost. But I forced myself to go, and I had some good moments at the church. The church wasn't really for me, but I think it was a stepping stone to get me on the right track. So I remember standing in there, listening to worship music, and God like speaking in my heart while I was standing in there. And I sat there and I just cried. I was standing there in the pew by myself. I was crying. I said, God, I need you in my life. I'm willing to follow you. But, you know, I just didn't keep true to that word. I just go back to college. And I'd just be at the party the next Saturday, drinking and, you know, stuff like that. But now we're towards the end of the semester, and I'm putting together my English portfolio with all my essays and stuff. And I asked this girl, said, hey, will you help me put this together? Will you meet me in the library? And she said yes. It's crazy how God works. I don't even know how we got on the topic of God. So I asked her to share her testimony, and then I shared my testimony with her. And then she invited me to her church. Again, I was in that situation where I was kind of nervous, intimidated by going to this church. So I told her the first week, hey, I'm busy, I can't go. But I really felt like I needed to go. So the next Wednesday, I went with her. And they had an altar call. And at that point is when I really called out to God, asked him to come back to my heart and lead my life. And then, but the part from that night that really spoke to me is afterwards they have a college small group with freshmen and sophomore in somebody's apartment. There's probably like 6 or 8 of us that go. But they were at that moment they were sharing testimonies with each other. And one guy said this. He said, "What do you bleed for that gives you nothing in return?" And that hit me. And I thought back of all the sin And I was like, all right, if I kept doing that, where would that take me? I hit myself up, and I was like, if I died right now, where would I go? And it wasn't heaven. So that moment, I knew I needed to live for God, and I've been living for God now. But immediately after that, I was back on campus, and I knew I had to find this guy that I knew lived for Christ, and I had to ask him, like, man, how do you do this? Like, how do you stay in touch with God with all the temptations of college, of the drinking, the partying, and stuff like that? And he told me that if you focus on getting rid of the sin by yourself, you'll fail every time. But if you focus on God, the sin will almost branch away. And man, I've never heard, that's the most powerful advice I've ever been told. I live by that. And every time I'm struggling with like lust or something, I say, and I'm trying to push it away myself, I say, God, I pray that I don't have this temptation anymore, and it goes away. But I've noticed recently God's been using me for a lot. So I'm finally back down here. I drove back December 15th. Got in like 10 o'clock. And I knew that like I still wanted to keep going to church. I was happy I can go back to First Assembly on Sundays and go to Bethel on Wednesdays. I was happy about that, see people that I know again. And I was able to invite 2 of my friends to First Assembly one week. And they both rededicated their lives that night. And then I remember it was New Year's Eve. I was reading. I had a video devotional. I was watching my devotional, and I noticed my friend was behind me, watching it with me. And after the video, he sat down. I was on the couch, and Cameron was on the other side of the couch, so there's nowhere for him to sit. And he laid down on the floor next to me. It was dark, but I remember him telling me the things he went through. I said, man, I put my hand on his chest. I said, man, I'm going to pray for you. And I prayed for him, and I just remember him crying. And I could feel the Holy Spirit in the room with us. It was something amazing. But I don't think and then I invited him to church the next day. I invited him to the Sunday service, the morning service at First Assembly, but he didn't wake up, so I invited him to the night service at 5:30. And then, I could tell that he wanted it, but he was kind of fighting it. And I was able to talk to him a few days later, and I said, man, what's keeping you from letting the Lord in? Like, what's stopping you? And then, I'm not sure if he wants me to tell you, so I'm not, but we went into some conversation.
Students 9 through 12, you're going to report to homeroom 7th and 8th.
Do I need to wrap this up?
A lot of people showed up and paid attention.
And that's where I'm at now.
Teachers 9 through 12th grade going to homeroom, getting their new schedule for second semester. Stay there until we let you know what to do. 7th and 8th grade, you're on your regular schedule right now.
Shut up, Steve.
9th through 12th grade going to homeroom this morning. Stay in there until we let you know what to do. Thank you.
That's where I'm at now. Living for the Lord. I know I got a lot in front of me, and I appreciate you guys listening to me. The bell just rang, so if you guys give me a second, I'll just pray, if that's okay with you guys. Dear Lord, I thank you for this day, and I thank you for the very many blessings you've given us, Lord. I thank you for allowing me to come here and give my testimony, Lord. I pray for all these people in here, Lord, that they go out and they live for you, Lord, and they be shining lights for you, Lord. In your beautiful and your precious name I pray. Amen.
Can we finish it?
Yes.